Dinosaur Man.
Hello and welcome to Dinosaur Man News and Reviews. I'm Andy Hughes and I'm here as ever with Alex Hudson.
I think today's going to be the best episode we've ever done.
Why do you think that?
It's more out of hope, I suppose.
Can you feel it in your bones?
Not really.
Because it's spooky season now, so...
I can feel it I can taste it on my tongue. Like from
Machine Gun
Kelly's brilliant song, whatever it was called.
I think
Watch
I'm
Me.
okay.
It's not called Watch Me. Watch Me is for the chorus.
Yes.
Wow. When that's a chorus these days.
Watch me.
But it is nice that because spooky season is upon us, he name checks his favourite scary movie.
Does he?
Travis Barker. The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, okay, yeah, he does.
Remember? Yeah.
This is really great for all those Machine Gun Kelly fans that listen to the podcast.
Look, do yourselves a favour, guys. If you want a nostalgia blast down memory lane, I'm sure we've done this before about a year and a half ago when we discovered the song.
It.
But Machine Gun Kelly's
I think I'm
okay is pure hit of 2003.
Like pop punk.
Yeah, proper, like, nothing of consequence, don't worry. Like, it's not going to change your life, but at the same time, you'd want to see it in concert.
Like, imagine, like, you are a music artist.
Yes.
And you release a song like that.
I'm Cliff Richard, weirdly, in my head.
And you know... Okay, so, using a Cliff Richard example, you release Wired for Sound, and you go, I'm never going to beat this. Like, I've done it. I've done the best song I possibly can, and that everything else is me just scrambling to get back to that high.
I mean, that ain't true.
Well, no, he did release Wired for Sound. His best song.
Yeah, but it's not, like, the best.
Okay, what's his best song?
Oh, his best?
The Lord's Prayer.
The best?
His best.
Because you said, I've released the best song.
Yeah, the best song I'm capable of doing.
Oh, okay. Lord's Prayer. Yeah, Millennium Prayer. Was really good. I don't know. What's his Christmas one? Is that good? Christmas time.
I think it's called Wired for Sound.
I definitely know that it isn't that.
When I worked in Spain, Cliff Richard has a house just outside of Benidorm.
Okay.
And every single trip you ever did with anybody, when you passed by where it was, they would always say, Cliff Richard's house is over there, which is just this mansion on top of a cliff.
Yeah. On top of a Richard, more like.
But yeah, every single tour, to the point that then you start doing it yourself when you're, like, say, driving people in from the airport. Like, you'll pass it and you'll go, Cliff Richard's house. Nobody cares.
You hated it.
But you have to say it.
Right. Should we get on with things?
You know there's no swinging parties happening in there.
It depends who you believe, I suppose.
True. Okay. We're not going to say any more on that. What do you want me to say? Didn't he sue a load of people for?
Well, yeah, I mean... Well, look, we're not going to get into it because it's a...
Let's just talk about his house. It was nice and it was white.
Look, let's just get the fuck on with things.
We are dinosaur men. We are doing the news.
This is high energy. This is high energy now.
We are the only podcast in the world that talks news and reviews. This week, I think we're going to focus on movie news and reviews.
Okay.
What are we reviewing this week, Alex?
So, we're going to be reviewing 6 films, if you can believe such a thing. We're going to be reviewing Afterlove, Kate, Tom and Jerry, Gunpowder Milkshake, The Green Knight, and, don't know why I saved this till last, Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Okay, that's a lot of films.
It is a lot of films.
It was okay.
A couple of those are catch-ups, but it's fine.
We'll get through all this, though.
I prefer mustard.
No, the energy's gone. Burn this podcast. Remember how you said this is the best episode ever?
I wish I could
burn this podcast. I think you cursed us.
Do you think you can burn a podcast?
Onto a CD.
Let's get on with it.
Kids, back in the day, we used to be able to burn stuff onto CDs. We don't mean with lighters, we mean using computer programs. Before we get to movie reviews, we must talk...
They don't know what lighters are because they're all vaping.
So
you have to explain a lighter as well. They just vape a candle on.
There's this guy called Felix. Hey, he's in the Zeitgeist. I think he's in the new Bond, isn't he?
He's in the Lightgeist.
Oh. Bit of Felix Leiter. Is it Leiter or Leitner?
I it's lighter. I had a dream that I was in the James Bond film.
Yeah.
And that Felix Leiter, I don't know why, but he was sort of horribly scarred.
Mm-hmm.
Like one half of his face looked kind of like a melted candle. And he was like, oh yeah, because of the events of the last film. So he was aware that he was in a film.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't Jeffrey Wright saying it. It was Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter.
Did he have diamonds in his face?
No, it wasn't like Zhao or whatever his name is.
That's a shame.
Look, Die Another Day is not a good movie, and the sooner you remember that.
I was on a pod. Did I finish this last week? I was on a podcast. Best Worst of Britain. I know I spoke about it on the stream, I think, but I don't know if I spoke about it on the podcast.
I'm 100% sure you also spoke about it on the podcast, but
I was on it, and I talked about Die Another Day.
Yeah.
Just thought it was nice to reference it.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting dream. Shall we talk gaming news?
Yeah.
I don't know what that dream means. Somebody write in if you're a dream expert.
I don't know. Konami are rebooting Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But
is it? I take your word for it. I found the first one that isn't depressing again.
Two of those were Kojima properties. Mm-hmm. And Silent Hill's been rumoured to be going with Kojima ever since he left, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But Konami have basically kept hold of these. Now, we saw what they did with like Metal Gear Rise or Metal Gear Survive, whatever it was, where they basically made it a game that wasn't Metal Gear because they've not got the brains behind that operation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the thing about a Kojima game, I'm not massively into them, but they are fully him. Mm-hmm. Like, he is an auteur, basically. Like, what he says goes. But Konami basically kept these properties because they make the money.
Yeah.
The last thing they did is they turned them into like pachinko machines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the pachinko machines. But that's all they've done with it. I thought Konami are basically going to just stop making games properly now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised because they make more money off those kind of gambling machines than they do off video games.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real point in them continuing. And allow others to create the games, but maybe license the properties off them.
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do. So I was quite surprised they go, oh yeah, we're going to make these games. But then again, like, there's been rumours of Silent Hill for, like, ever since PT came out, there's been continuous rumour that game's coming out.
Mm. This is on the back of a restructure to the company's game development divisions this year. Konami have now restructured and now focused on bringing back biggest brands to the premium game space.
Yeah.
So it's the first of the new titles will be a new Castlevania game. The director of this project is Dracula. Well, big get for them.
Well, the thing is, if you want a Castlevania game...
roast chicken in a wall?
The guy who...
That's what happens in Castlevania.
Well, the guy who made Castlevania went off and made, I think it's Bloodstained is his one now. Which is basically just Castlevania without the title. So if you want that, then the guy who made what you like about those games is out there still.
Yeah, but they might make a better Castlevania.
Imagine that. Somebody makes a better
They might make
version.
a better Castlevania, a better Metal Gear, and a better Silent Hill. And then it turns out that Kojima's got no clothes on the whole time. Probably because he's a fucking naked freak.
Imagine for a second... You are Cliff Richard, and you realize somebody has done a better Wired for Sound than you. That's heartbreaking.
Dracula re-recorded Wired for Sound?
Wired for Sound. If you just want to clip that, and we'll put that in the best of the podcast
and
episode
by that
when
I mean,
die.
Clip the silence. Jesus Christ. Really? This is where we are?
Yeah.
Is this where we're at with this? 400 episodes in and we're fucking...
Some people say we've been circling the drain for a long time.
We're doing impressions of what Dracula would sound like singing Cliff Richard songs.
Shall we talk some movie news?
I'm accepting all of your cookies. Now give them here into my mouth.
Put the cookie down. That's my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
I mean, what does it want me to do? I literally cannot accept any more cookies and it just won't let me. I swear to God. Anyway, yes, news. This world is bullshit.
Right, the worst thing to happen to the internet,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is us going, cookies is a problem.
Yeah.
Because every website now...
Cookies were fine before.
Well, just accept and steal my information. Because every every website I go on now...
It's fine, I got past the cookie block.
Has the accept and reject button.
Mm-hmm.
But normally they have accept and then show more purposes. And then, like, it gives them all. I'm like, I just want a reject button. Just give me that, and I'll just reject all.
I accept all cookies, though.
Why?
Because I want them. I'm hungry. You've been turning away free cookies, you fucking idiot.
I'm on a diet.
I got Chips Ahoy in my mouth. Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Just imagine if that was just the end of the news.
You just like shouting names.
So Scarlett Johansson and Disney have reached a settlement over her blockbuster lawsuit that accused the studio of sabotaging the theatrical release of Black Widow to prop up Disney Plus. She'd sought a $50 million payout from the studio. Rumors are that it's between $30 to $40 million. Yeah. I'm happy to have resolved our differences with Disney, Johansson said in a statement on Thursday. I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together over the years, cha-ching, cha-ching, and have greatly enjoyed my creative relationship with the team, cha-ching, cha-ching. I look forward to continuing our collaboration in years to come, cha-ching. All of those were subtext.
But she did say this while sat on a pile of money.
And Alan Bergman, the chairman of Disney Studios Content, said he too was pleased to have resolved the dispute. I'm very pleased that we've been able to come to a mutual agreement regarding Black Widow, he said in a statement. We appreciate her contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, cha-ching, cha-ching, and look forward to cha-ching, cha-ching, working together, cha-ching, cha-ching, on a number of upcoming projects, cha-ching, including Disney's Tower of Terror. Cha-ching.
Yeah, I'm not surprised this has all been settled. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's a civil suit. Like 95% of civil suits never actually get to court. They all get settled before. And yeah, there we go.
It's one of those that I'm surprised got played out in public.
Well, as soon as someone picks up on the fact that a lawsuit has been raised by this person against a former employer and future employer, cha-ching, cha-ching.
What's interesting is like the reaction of Disney at the time was very much just like, how dare you fucking do this when people are dying in the street? Look at these dead people. I mean, aren't you ashamed of yourself? And it's like, oh yeah, we've worked really well together, and I'm really glad that like she could come back for Tower of Terror.
Might be good. Who knows?
Could be good.
Could be
good.
It could be a 3-minute movie where you get into a thing and it goes whoa, ooh, whoa, ooh, whoa, ooh.
Alex is currently
like the Tower of Terror drop ride at Disney's Universal Studios. Yeah. Absolutely not. Disney's Hollywood Studios in Disney World Land. Walt Disney World.
The one in Florida, isn't it?
Yes, because they turned it into Guardians of Galaxy's Tower of Terror, which makes a lot of sense because they spend so much time in towers in those films in California. Okay, Fantastic Beasts 3 will be called The Secrets of Dumbledore. The secret is we didn't need more Dumbledore.
Are you not excited for this?
Fuck no. That last film really drained me of any goodwill that first one had done, which was some. I thought it was good enough, but it wasn't like it never felt necessary.
Yeah.
Then that second one just felt like, oh my god, this felt like the most boring, exciting film of all time.
I had fun with the first one.
First one, thank God. I thought you were going to say second one.
My favourite thing.
I'm sure I was with you in the. I fell asleep in the second one. My
favourite thing about the second one, and we've definitely spoken about this
But I still woke up in time for his sort of Nazi rally at the end.
The favourite thing about the second one, and I've definitely spoken about this before because it just makes me laugh, is my mum went to see it, having not seen the first, also fell asleep, and then complained that she didn't understand the film.
Okay, so you know how we're doing different cities in all of these? Yeah. Have you seen the cities that this one's based in?
No.
So obviously in Fantastic Beasts 1, whatever that was called. It was New York.
Oh, no, it was New Donk City, wasn't it?
No, it was New York City, don't worry. And then in the second one, it was London and Paris.
Yeah.
And then this one is going to be Berlin.
So from Paris to Berlin.
Rio de Janeiro.
the two places I wanted to visit.
All of this is just like, oh, by the way, you know all those people who were like, how come there's only wizards in these 3 European schools? Well, now we're going to go to America and see those wizards. Now we're going to go to South America and see those wizards. So by, hopefully, the end of this franchise, we'll have ended up with the Australian criminal wizards. That's the real Azkaban.
Well, yeah, Australia is just one big Azkaban.
Why would you not send all your wizards there as well? Too dangerous.
Yeah.
Can't put the criminals with the other criminals, with the muggle criminals.
The problem is, Australia is too big to cover in Dementors. Azkaban is small.
I guess that's true. What else is happening? Super Mario Brothers movie. So this is the Illumination animated project. So they're the same studio who've done the Despicable Me movies, the Minions movie. It's got a new voice cast.
Yes.
Not a new voice cast. It's got a first voice cast. Christopher Pratt is Mario.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of uproar about that bit of casting, of people being like, is Chris Pratt really the best option for this?
Yeah.
Like, no one's heard his voice, so he could turn out to be really good. And, you know, he's good in the Lego movies. He can do voice work. But it is that thing of being like, you just got him because it's Chris Pratt, isn't it? Like, it's because he's a name. And that's what, like, the guy who does the actual Mario voice, I can't remember what his
Charles
name is.
Martinet.
He's in this film in other roles, basically.
Yeah, he'll do background voices, probably.
But I did see
I think he's going to be the pipe.
I did hear somebody say, like, that Charles Martinet voice is just, you know, it's just like, let's go. Like, how long can that... You couldn't do that for an entire film if you're going to make Mario dialogue heavy.
Don't make him dialogue heavy, then.
True.
Make it a
everyone
silent
else
film.
talk. But yeah...
Like the Minions just say banana all the time.
But just
Make that.
Just have Mario have, like, 4 lines, just repeated.
Princess Peach can do heavy lifting.
So the rest of the voice cast, like, so Chris Pratt's the one that I'm like, okay, I don't really hear it, but maybe it'll work fine when it's it. The rest of it, I don't think sounds too bad.
I think it's all miscast, though, because Charlie Day does not give off Luigi energy. Luigi, cowardly beta cuck.
But Charlie Day's also in Lego Movie and is also good.
Yeah, but, like, he's high energy, he's frantic. He's not what I think of when I think of Luigi.
Yeah, but I like to imagine this Luigi's going to be pissed off American Italian.
Yeah.
Actual plumber. He's the actual plumber. He's coming home and he's like...
But in that case, cast an Italian American for it, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, that should have been the case anyway.
Which I think they've done with Spike, and that might be it.
Who's Spike?
One of the Koopalings, I think.
I know, who's playing Spike?
Sebastian Maniscalco.
I do not know this person.
He's a stand-up, I believe. Anyway.
There's a couple of castings in here that I really like.
Anya Taylor-Joy is Princess Peach, of course. She's obsessed with cakes. She's obsessed with cakes. Jack Black as Bowser.
Love that. Like, genuinely love it, because
I don't understand
A, I really like Jack Black,
Uh-huh.
and B, it could be a lot of fun.
Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
Oh, that's gonna be weird.
Keegan-Michael Key as Toad.
Yeah, that works.
Does
Works. Yeah. Because what's Toad?
He's a fucking coward as well.
Keegan-Michael Key could do that.
Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong.
That could be fun.
Get someone who's like 104 years old. Get Alan Alda to voice Cranky Kong. Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek.
I don't know who that
and
is.
And then Sebastian Maniscalco as Spike. So...
I don't know. Like, I think people have reacted.
I mean, look, you're obviously you're the video game guy.
I think people have reacted kind
You
of...
saw Sonic.
Sonic was a lot of fun.
So then this is going to be double fun if sales figures of the games are to be believed.
It could be fun, and that's the thing. And I think people have reacted very much a case of, oh, it's Chris Pratt, and like he's just taking all the roles. And I get that. And, you know, there are problematic things about Chris Pratt, like the church that he goes to is incredibly homophobic, and he has never really distanced himself from it. That is a problem. But at the same time, I think we've not heard any of this film. Like, it's just a bunch of names and people reacting to...
I actually did see a leaked script, though.
Yeah.
Starts off with Mario at church.
Oh no. Is he getting married?
Well, yeah, but to a woman, and he makes it very clear that he would never not get married to a woman. And then he looks at Luigi dead in the eyes and he shoots daggers at him.
And Luigi goes, "Hey Mario, it's me, Luigi."
Good. I'm glad that a voice that would never come out of Charlie Day's mouth is the voice you've chosen to go for that hardened plumber. Anyway, that's coming out in a couple of years' time, so who knows?
Yeah.
Hey, the good news is, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay, that game.
That's still getting the film that it was announced it was
Did you ever play that?
No, it's not my kind of thing. But the problem is, of course, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that's happening, but now is no longer happening with Christopher Columbus, is now still happening with Blumhouse, but no one knows who's going to direct it.
You just go for it.
You've already had Willy's Wonderland, and it proved that isn't fun. I mean, this is probably not going to be Willy's Wonderland, but...
No, but this has the name behind it. And this will be PG horror. Like, it will be another... what's it called? Happy Death Day. That sort of kind of style. Because that's how you get people through the doors who are aware of Five Nights at Freddy's. And that name alone will get you bums in seats.
Yeah.
You've just got to find somebody to paint by numbers a film. Like, I don't imagine this will be good, but it will be successful.
He says,
make of that what you will.
He says, "We're a long way from giving up, and I'm confident eventually I will figure it out." Good.
It's always a strong statement, isn't it?
Anyway, no one plays that game anymore, right?
I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure it had its final game released. They were like, "This is the last in the series." Then they released a package of all of them, and then they released a sequel. And I was like, I thought this was done. Maybe it's just, the thing about Five Nights at Freddy's is it never dies.
Yeah, maybe.
How spooky. Boo.
Is that the thing of Five Nights at Freddy's?
That
no
was
one
a
ever
ghost,
dies?
not me just booing the game.
But there's not ghosts there, is there? It's just,
no, it's animatronics. Even animatronics killing a guy. Oh. I left dead silence there while you coughed.
Bad movie.
Dead silence?
Yeah.
Which one's that?
James Wan's film about a haunted doll, basically.
Classic James Wan movie.
It stars Donnie Wahlberg, I feel like. Dead silence. 2007. Yeah. I'll give you the little rundown of it because there's nothing else to do today. So the plot is a guy who I think is maybe a detective. He comes back to the town he left or something. This woman basically makes you scream and then she can kill you. Mary Shaw. But then there's a puppet involved. The big twist at the end is that some person's dad's new wife is controlling him like a puppet and has cut out the back of his back and is like puppeting his mouth and his head. It's very stupid. Anyway, Lee Winnell then went on to write Invisible Man, so I guess he's good now. But, No Time to Die.
Yeah.
We're not reviewing it this week because we haven't seen it.
No.
I'll level with you. I'm probably not going to see this movie before the end of the year at least. Andy might do. But we're still waiting on it, basically.
Yeah.
Well, it's out. We could have seen it. If you want, I can give the review that Paul gave it.
Enjoyed it?
Well, it's in his top 15, I think, so I'm taking that as he enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I haven't actually spoken to him about it. But I've seen that it's in his...
I've heard some good things about it.
Hey, when Spectre's your last one. So, anyway, the good news is, everyone who was worried that these movie theatres were going to die, it's on course to clear $113 million this weekend in its international markets. Which is the best launch of the pandemic era at the international box office without China. But it does have a Chinese release date of the 29th of October, so that's a big market that it is going to get played in, which is something that Black Widow and Jungle Cruise haven't had, Shang-Chi hasn't had, and probably won't get now. But if you look at something like Free Guy did pretty well in China. This is a marketable franchise that already has that weight of expectation behind it. So there are positive signs from this. It's still yet to open in the box office. Well, it turns out the Godzilla vs. Kong already did that. But then Bond's just coming along to help it out.
And he bloody well did it.
But, it's good news for everyone, really.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll probably see it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I will see it.
Mm.
Just don't know when.
Mm.
It's the beauty of...
So you've upgraded from, I'll probably see it, to I will see it, to I don't know when
I will see it. Like, that's the beauty of this podcast. Like, we bring you all the things fresh out of the blocks.
Yeah, so look out for that review coming in 2022.
2023. Let's give myself some time.
Okay, just in case.
I need time to die.
Okay, so let's move on.
So, moving towards movies, but first, before we get there, let's have a little stop off in...
Oh, yeah. Watch If.
The ongoing series of Andy's watched 2 more episodes of...
This is the issue. They've done it wrong.
What?
Because they needed to have released the last episode.
Yes.
So it means you're going to review the last episode of this series at the end of the month. Because guess what, guys? We haven't told you this yet. There's not going to be a news and reviews now until Halloween.
Yeah.
So,
interesting thing about this. So they did 2 of them. One of them is What If 4 Was an Only Child, which I think was a bad episode. Like, it's basically just 4 comes down to Earth.
skip it.
And parties. And basically then gets told off by his mom. But there is a good fight between him and Captain Marvel in there. Which I kind of think, I would actually really like to see that live action. But it's quite nice that we get to see that. There's some animation in there that's really nice as well. It's kind of almost anime-esque. I do think I'm getting more and more off board with the style of animation. Like, I think I'm slowly becoming around to like Paul's point of view, which is it actually is a little bit ugly.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem to kind of have the same kind of depth as what you'd get from something else. The last episode, so the penultimate episode, is What If Ultron Wins? So it's a story of basically if Ultron had got the Vision body. And using that was then able to kind of carry out his master plan of, destroy everything.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Really interesting. Really gutted they haven't got James Spader back, though. Because it is noticeably not James Spader.
Yeah.
And that really kind of takes away from kind of like the threat that Ultron had. But it's kind of pays homage to, actually, we could have done Ultron a whole lot better. And that actually is the first one that sets up a kind of second part. And it's kind of like now linking some of the rest of what we've seen. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I don't know how I feel about this series as a whole. I feel it's very kind of, I think we spoke about this before, about it being like Twilight Zone-esque, where like there's certain ones I'm like, that's really good. And others I'm like, I could probably have just done without that. But I think that's what you get with anthologies. Like, you always get ones that are weaker. But yeah, it's fine. Like, if you are a completionist, then you've probably already watched this. But if you're waiting to hear kind of what people are saying, I don't think it's that important to see them. Okay. Also, Ted Lasso is on its series finale next week, and I can't wait.
Why do they plan these so badly?
It's so, like, the thing is, it's so good. Like, people are slating this series because they're saying it's not as kind of heartwarming as the other one. Like, this is quite a dark series now. Like, but it's dealing with proper human emotions. And I'm like, yeah, it feels like we're actually dealing with real people. But yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And I've been watching Squid Game. Squid Game is great. It's on Netflix. Watch that.
Okay.
I got 2 episodes left. I'm sorry, I couldn't complete it before we recorded.
Are we going to do this?
No.
Are we going to bring up the blow-up?
No.
Listeners, there was a blow-up last night and it got very, very heated.
You were just a tired boy and you got...
I don't understand why you think that I can't just be in the room while you watch it. I'm not going to talk in your show.
Oh, he's going to talk through all my shows.
Oh,
it's terrible.
I can't wait till you go away.
Shall we go into...
And by that I mean move house.
Shall we go into movie reviews?
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
Start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. Talk to me about Tom and Jerry.
Okay,
It came out in March or whatever.
I'll keep this very short, sweet. Tom and Jerry is basically the movie version of the animated series about a animated cat trying to get an animated mouse. This time it's set in a hotel, like a fictional hotel in New York, where hijinks ensue. It's got this blend of kind of animated, like hand-drawn animation characters, and live action, kind of all kind of blending into each other. It's got some really funny people in it. I think Michael Pena is having the time of his life in this. Like, he's really going all out. And you could tell he had a lot of fun doing this. The other one is Rob, what's his name? Rob Delaney, yes. Is a really great addition to the cast. Like, plays it really kind of down the middle, quite serious, which really works. It's very much a case of, if you like the cartoon, you're probably going to like this.
Yeah.
But there is no story here. There's nothing kind of engaging about the characters. Like, the only real fun parts of this are the bits where Tom and Jerry are doing Tom and Jerry stuff. And don't get me wrong, there were bits that made me smile, made me laugh, and be like, oh, I remember, like, it reminded me of being a kid again.
Yeah.
Like, there were moments of Tom, like, paragliding in the sky and he gets struck by lightning, or he'd land somewhere and Jerry would kind of screw him over, and it really made me kind of go, oh, actually, there is a kind of timeless joy about those cartoons. And I think there's a reason why a lot of adults kind of still gravitate towards watching that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because
it is something that you don't need any kind of depth to. You don't need any kind of ongoing story. And actually, once you try adding depth and ongoing story, that's at the detriment to the property, because you then kind of are just waiting for the next moment. And that's your problem when you put it into a film.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn that into a film, you are then having moments that are lulls. And, you know, the film isn't long. It's like an hour and a half or something like that. Like, it's a fairly inoffensive length. But there are still lulls where you are suddenly thinking, oh, actually, I could probably just watch the series. It's an absolute that'll do pig. Like, it wasn't terrible. Like, I've seen some really bad reviews of it, and I don't think it's as bad as people make out. But it's nowhere near as good as it could have been.
But for a kid,
if you're a kid, I think kids would really like it, because it is that you get that Tom and Jerry-esque stuff. And I do think that if you love the cartoons, there is enough of that kind of Tom and Jerry attitude to it.
Yeah.
To kind of get you through.
Okay. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So this is the third mainline installment in the Conjuring franchise that's been hugely successful for Warner Brothers, based on the real-life adventures of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were psychic investigators and demonologists in a very loose term. So this film, third in the franchise, but 15th or something in the actual overall thing with all the offshoots there are now. Anyway, so this one picks up a few years after the last one and follows the real life story, in quotation marks, of, what's his name? Arnie Johnson, who...
How do you not remember that from all the trailers? Arnie Johnson would play good.
Yeah, so it was the first American murder trial to claim demonic possession as a defense. So basically, there is a murder in here, and then they say, right, well, if we can claim that you were demonically possessed, then maybe we'll get you off the hook for this or whatever, because he was demonically possessed or whatever.
Yeah.
It was thrown out immediately. But of course, this film can't say that. So what ends up happening is they have to go away and investigate while Arnie Johnson's in prison, waiting to have his trial. And they go away and investigate and find out, well, who possessed him? Because it seems like maybe there's a witch at play.
Oh, there's always a witch.
Well, there isn't, and this is the problem, is that most of the time it's just demons, but now there is a legitimate human being who is causing this, and they've got to find them before it's too late.
Oh, no.
Because she needs a soul to a demon. Look.
She's playing Mortal Kombat and your soul is mine.
The problem with this, the problem with this film is it just is those other films again, and as much success as they've had on the mainstream market, and they are sort of horror movies that appeal to a mainstream audience because they're so formulaic and you know exactly what you're getting. That's exactly the stuff that really doesn't work for me. Is that all it is just like, oh, okay, well, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are going to go into a room, it'll be dark, then it'll be bright, and then there'll be a person standing behind them, and they'll grab their throat or something. And then that's, as simple as that sounds, they managed to make that last for 2 hours nearly, It's not like, it paces itself relatively well in terms of that. It's just, I'm fundamentally not interested in seeing that kind of movie. Overall, I think if you're a fan of the franchise, this is an absolute that'll do pick. It's probably not the best in the franchise. I still think that Annabelle Creation is the best of these films. And I would probably say that the first Conjuring probably feels like, of the mainline franchise, that's still the most well-rounded. This is fine. I mean, it's, inoffensive nonsense, really. But to me, it's a would not recommend, because I would never want to, I think that if you are a fan of this franchise, you'll know you are. And you'll know that, oh, well, this is exactly what I want to see. But as it is, would not recommend. Yeah. It's no good.
And if you want to know how the Conjuring franchise got there, we did an episode a couple of months ago. All about the Conjuring timeline. So
probably should have seen it then when I did that episode, shouldn't I? Right, what do we do next? I'll do Afterlove next, and then you can have a double bill.
Yeah, because my two kind of work well together. So
okay, perfect. So Afterlove, this is the debut feature from Aleem Khan, who is an English-Pakistani filmmaker, and follows the story of Mary, who's played by Joanna Scanlon in probably a career best performance by her, who is a white English Muslim who converted 20 years ago for her husband. And her husband is a ferry captain, and they live in Dover, and he's back and forth between there and Calais all of the time. And suddenly, very instant, like at the start of the film, he dies. And upon his death, she discovers some things in his wallet that sort of imply that he might have some secrets over the channel. And she goes over to investigate. And it turns out that he has this entire secret life over there that she's been completely unaware of. And to infiltrate, she goes there with the idea of, well, I'll confront the woman who was sleeping with my husband, and I'll confront her about the fact that, how long has this been going on? And before she can do that, the mistress presumes that she is there to clean her house.
Yeah.
Because of her mannerisms and the way she holds herself, and she says, oh, well, I wasn't sure about booking this, so I don't know, the agency has sent you anyway, but you're here now, so you may as well help. And it turns out she's moving, and she needs help packing up the house and cleaning up the house as she goes. So for the next week, she then infiltrates the life of this woman and learns all about Ahmed's secret life here through the fact that she can ask these questions without fear of being revealed because she's presumed to be this cleaner. It's a really great film. It sort of explores the idea of identity and explores the idea of coping with immeasurable loss, and then also having to confront your absolute worst fears at the same time, and not being able to do anything about those fears because the person has already gone. It's really fascinating, and I think Joanna Scanlon it's one of the best performances I've seen this year, and it feels like it's one of those films that will people will find it and people will seek it out if they want to. But they won't be disappointed when they do, because I really do think that it is just phenomenal. I think it's a really, really strong film that has a really satisfying progression. I really liked it. So it's called Afterlove. It's available. It's streaming for free if you have BFI player. If you don't, I believe it is available to rent or buy now on digital or DVD.
Great stuff.
Yes.
Sounds really good.
Would recommend. You have seen... What do you want to start with?
I'll start with Gunpowder Milkshake,
Yes.
and then I'll move into Kate. Like I said, because they both kind of fit the same kind of idea and genre. So Gunpowder Milkshake is the movie that is starring
Karen Gillan.
as basically a hitman who kills the wrong people or does the wrong thing that then makes a lot of people come after her.
Yeah.
And it is one of those Karen Gillan does John Wick sort of thing, where it's very much the whole film is very bright, it's very colourful, it has this kind of history to it. So it's got like a diner where hitmen meet, and they get their missions, and then there's this underground library, which is where you go and you upgrade your guns, which is run by, Angelica Houston. That might be completely wrong. Who am I thinking of?
What do? They run
the bookshop,
library.
The library. One of them is Carla Gugino. One of them is
Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett, not.
Okay, so Angela Bassett, okay. I can't find the bit where it describes the library, so I'm just having to read names of people who are in it. Michelle Yeoh is also in this.
Those are the three. Okay. They run the library, and you go there and you get your books out. You can't see my air quotes. You get your books out, but they are just guns. Also, Lena Headey's in this as the mother of Karen Gillan. And it basically tells a story of kind of like, she was a child who was abandoned, and then went into the same line of work as her mother, and she's very good at it. It's very much kind of little bit of story to get you to the next set piece, and very much a we have this kind of secretive world sort of thing. The fights are fairly, for what it is, the fights are fairly inventive, and there is a lot of interesting and fun stuff in there. For example, there is one bit where, for reasons, she loses power of her arms. So she ends up having like a scalpel sellotaped to one hand and a gun sellotaped to the other. Okay. And she fights with kind of wobbly hands. And that's the kind of stuff that I enjoyed. I was like, okay, you're thinking how can we make this fun? How can we make this different? And one of the big positives I will give to it is towards the end, there is a big fight scene that involves Karen Gillan, Lena Headey, and the librarians all basically teaming up to fight an onslaught of people. And it was really great seeing women in action, because you don't see it, especially women of that age. Don't go to the forefront of action, have these great action scenes, and it is done pretty well. And I was like, that's really great, because, there is that adage of when women get to a certain age, they are widows or forgotten. And this was actually, these are like four people, if you take it, Karen Gillan, of a certain age who are kicking ass. Like, they are absolutely like tearing house. My problem with Gunpowder Milkshake is it is so desperate to keep your attention. The whole film feels like it's just going, are we having fun? Isn't this fun? Hey guys, have you seen how fun this is? Hey, don't look away. We're having... And it constantly seemed like it was terrified that you would stop paying attention. And because of that, the writing and the characters and the story are completely forgotten for the premise, like for the setting, for the universe. Like the universe and all that kind of stuff was more important than having something that was coherent and interesting.
Yeah.
And that's where it really, really fails.
Yeah.
Because, yes, you can put these flashing lights in front of my eyes to distract me, but actually, if there's nothing deeper, then what's the point? And yeah, I commend the fact that you've got really nice action scenes in here, and you are probably more interesting action-wise than a lot of action films that I've seen, but it actually all means nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm aware it means nothing. And that's where it falls down. Now, I'm going to compare this to Kate. So Kate is a Netflix movie which has Mary Elizabeth Winstead as a hitwoman, again, as an assassin, who basically gets poisoned with some radioactive material and spends the movie going to find the people who poisoned her so she can get her revenge. In this, it's all set in Tokyo, and it leans into the setting of Tokyo quite a lot, and having it be like, you know, you go into places that are flashy and these places that are like the back streets and stuff like that, and it uses the setting really well.
Yeah.
The difference is I think the action in this film is probably not as fun per se, because it's not as flashy, but it's done incredibly well.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is a really committed lead who you actually believe in the character. There is stakes to the story, and there is drama that actually is engaging. You know, it has a really interesting side cast of really, really great performers. Like Woody Harrelson's in this, and he gives like for Woody Harrelson, a fairly subtle performance.
Yeah.
And what Kate made me realise is like, oh, this doesn't have the universe kind of stuff that's interesting. But what it does is it has characters that you actually care about and action that's done really well. And has it in a way is more engaging than something that is flash and be like, oh, isn't this so real kooky and stuff? Like Kate does it really well. And there's also something really nice about having a film like this where you know your main character is dying the entire time, because it adds stakes, it adds a time limit to it. And, you know, I think having a concept like that in an action film is always more interesting.
Yeah.
And what this made me realise is, like, the reason I'm talking about these both at the same time is because both of them come from the John Wick school of action movie making.
Yeah.
And the problem is so in terms of what I would rate them as, Gunpowder Milkshake is an absolute that'll do pig. Kate, I think, is probably a would recommend to. Yeah, I'd probably lean into would recommend because I actually really enjoyed it. But both of them come from this school of filmmaking, which was all born out of John Wick, which is, you know, I think we spoke about this recently with horror films, somewhere, which basically like you end up in cycles, which is like something comes along and every filmmaker goes, oh, we're going to make this type of film.
Yeah.
And the problem is, like, when you look at the original John Wick, the reason that worked is because not only did you have an incredibly committed lead, you had some incredible action, you then had a universe that was interesting and a story that was engaging. Now, the interesting universe was basically only hinted at, like, and then it was expanded in John Wick 2 and 3 to make it like this really kind of in-depth universe you know no more about. In Gunpowder Milkshake, for example, you find out there is a high table and that it's going to be wiped out within 30 minutes. You've got no kind of intrigue or anything like that. Everything's just given to you.
Yeah.
While Kate doesn't really have a universe behind it. It is fairly standard action storytelling. And I think the problem is people are scrambling to make something that is John Wick without the kind of time and care that it took to make that film. And it's something I notice a lot in action. And these two films both coming out around about the same time really kind of show that, like, you can get most of the way there in certain ways. And sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't. But it's really hard to get it all. And actually, maybe if you would squash these two films together, I don't know how you would do that, because they are two quite different very easy to go about it. But if you'd got like the component parts of like the things that worked well in both films, put them together, you get a very, very good film.
Yeah.
I think I've just rambled on for a long time about two films, but I hope you get the idea of like they're almost there.
Yeah.
And you're trying your hardest. Gunpowder Milkshake just falls quite short of where it could be. And Kate gets, like I said, I quite enjoyed it, Kate, I think. But it could have been better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Please, you go.
Okay. Yes. So The Green Knight. So this is the latest film from David Lowery, who'd previously done A Ghost Story, Pete's Dragon, Ain't Them Bodies Saints, and The Old Man and the Gun, amongst other things as well. So it is an adaptation of the 14th century poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Stars Dev Patel as our lead, who in this film is sort of loosely referred to as Gawain, but also Gawain. And I think there's a key thing there about the idea of things not being quite as remembered, which I think is really interesting. So he's the nephew of the king, and on Christmas Day, the king invites him to sit up with him at the head of the table and says, "Tell me a story. You know, it's Christmas. Tell me one of your adventures. Tell me one of your stories." And he says, "I have no story. I have no stories to tell." And the queen at this point says, "Yet." And then almost instantly, a stranger arrives, this huge, giant, sort of earthly being called the Green Knight, who asks who there is brave enough to take him on and fight him and deliver a blow to him. And then if you deliver a blow, then 1 year hence, you will then have to come and find me, seek me out, and I will return that blow in kind. And there's, you know, a bunch of people sort of saying, "Oh, well, maybe." And the king says, "Well, if I had the energy to do it, I would. My body is not willing, but my mind is." And Gawain says, "Well, I'll do it. I'll come and do it." And the king says, "You know, just remember, it's a game. It's not serious." And so he goes and brings his sword, and the knight kneels down and asks him to take a swing. And Gawain just straight up lops his head off. Cue much cheering and sort of exalting of him as his hero. The Green Knight then stands up, decapitated, and picks up his head and basically rides off saying 1 year hence. And we then see what happens to Gawain in that 1 year that intervenes. We see him drinking and carousing and sort of fighting. And then the king says to him, "So what are you going to do? It's nearly a year up now. What are you going to do? Have you planned anything? You know, are you going?" And he goes. And then we follow his sort of expedition to find the Green Knight a year on from that. It's a really interesting film. First of all, it's the best looking film of the year by a country mile. The cinematography on display here is just breathtaking. Yeah. And I think that's something that David Lowery's always been very conscious of. He's a director who tells stories in a visual medium. So something like A Ghost Story is largely silent, and yet there's so much being told in what's on screen. And this follows a very similar thing of, it's not always the most verbal of films, but what it has this sort of dreamlike, ethereal quality of being this sort of medieval fantasy that's something between a dream and reality. So the actual visuals of it are just absolutely astounding. The cinematographer is Andrew Droz Palermo, who has done just an incredible job.
Yeah.
But David Lowery is someone who's got an eye for that idea. The supporting cast are really good. Sean Harris and Kate Dickie as the King and Queen are really, really good. And then Alicia Vikander has this sort of dual role in here. And there is, weirdly enough, it's a Ralph Ineson double bill this week because he was in Gunpowder Milkshake. Mm-hmm. And he also plays the Green Knight here. And that's a role where you are, a wooden knight, basically. And yet there's so much to that performance still. And there's a lot going on. And it brings up all these ideas of sort of destiny, fate, authorship, who's actually writing your story for you, who's in control of your story, and the various sort of variations that come out of that. And, if you take this direction in this story, this is where you end up, and this is where you could end up. It's a brilliant film. I really, really like it. It's easily one of my favourite films of the year, and I think it's so refreshing to see a film like this want to take its time in telling its story and know that David Lowery's it feels like he's kind of at that point where he's saying, okay, I trust that my audience is my audience at this point.
Yeah.
And I really want to tell this story in the way I want to tell it. And, it's not a film that's going to break box office records because it's got such a limited appeal. And yet, realistically speaking, I can't think of that many films this year that I would prefer seeing to this.
Yeah.
I really, really like it. And, from someone who's got such an astounding back catalogue as David Lowery, it's kind of incredible that this stands out as probably being his best film. It sometimes happens, these directors can just hit that run of form. And so far, I haven't seen anything recently where I've gone, I'm all right. It's called The Green Knight. It's out in cinemas at the moment. I mean, you'll have to search it out, but it's out in some cinemas at the moment. But it's also on Amazon Prime in the UK. It's now out on digital in the US, so that's because it came out in June there. It's really worth seeking out.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I find really interesting, because it is a film that is of a very certain style, and it's a story of a very certain time and type. Yet, I think there was a lot of clamour for it, especially here, because it had been released in the US, but there was nothing about it here. And I think the people who were really looking forward to this it's paying off in dividends of like, oh no, this is exactly what you wanted it to be. It is one I'm gonna catch soon, all being well. I will watch it, but I'll definitely see it before the end of the year, because it is one that I was actually kind of looking forward to. And especially hearing you and Paul talk about it makes me want to watch it even more.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it.
That's us. We did it.
You're not going to hear from us on news and reviews until the 31st now?
Or maybe earlier.
Okay, maybe earlier.
It might be on the Wednesday news and reviews, because there might be something else coming out on the 31st.
Double drop, like I say.
But yeah, before then, though, there were going to be a couple of spooky Halloween episodes coming
next week after that.
It's Shocktober, so prepare yourself for that. If you want to contact us and let us know what you're watching, especially let us know what you're watching for Halloween during this spooky time.
Yes.
Like, do you do anything for Halloween? Let us know on Twitter at DinosaurMan15. It's the best way to contact us. We also are on Twitch at twitch.tv/DinosaurManPod.
Yes.
We started our Pokemon adventure of Andy's going to kill all his Pokemon sooner or later.
Yes.
That's happening on Twitch. But if you follow us on there, it will alert you when we go live. But thank you for listening, guys. Thank you, Johnny News, as ever, for the theme song. This week it was a old poem.
Okay, good.
Alex, thank you for being the host.
Thank you for being the host.
And until next time, guys.
Just strap your spooky seasons on.
I am the real Gunpowder Mukbang.
Are you? Is it a person?
No, I don't even know. It's called Gunpowder Milkshake because there's guns in one of the defining characteristics is they drink milkshake. Like,
that's cool.
Is it?
Yeah, and there's a gun in the milkshake.
It's just them going, hey, look, isn't it fun? Look, this is a character thing. Isn't it cool that we keep coming back and drinking milkshake?
Is there a gun or isn't there a gun?
Oh, there's definitely a gun.
Oh, Okay.
It's not a David Lowery Gunpowder Milkshake.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye.